it didn't happen with a press conference. There was no dramatic announcement, no countdown clock, no industry insider leaking the news ahead of time. Instead, it happened quietly, almost dangerously so. Late one night, fans scrolling through updated global rankings noticed something impossible. Two familiar names had moved past where no solo or duo outside a global boy group had gone in years. Faye, Yoko. And suddenly, the conversation across Asia changed. For over a decade, the upper tier of Asia's power rankings had been locked territory, dominated by legacy idols, billion-stream acts, and fandoms built on numbers so massive they felt untouchable. Breaking into the top 10 wasn't just about popularity. It required cross-industry dominance, streaming power, brand value, global reach, social impact, and cultural relevance all at once. That's why what happened next stunned everyone. Faye and Yoko didn't just enter the top 10. They broke records previously held by BTS-era metrics in engagement velocity, brand conversion rates, and international media amplification. And they did it without a global music machine behind them. What makes this moment unprecedented isn't only the ranking. It's how they got there. No world tour stadiums, no album bundles, no decade-long idol system. Instead, Faye and Yoko built something far more volatile and powerful. A fandom that moves emotionally, not mechanically. Their rise wasn't driven by mass voting campaigns alone. It was driven by belief. Fans didn't just support them. They defended them. They followed their silence. They amplified every small moment like it mattered. Because to them, it did. Industry analysts later pointed out something even more shocking. When BTS previously dominated similar metrics, the numbers came from scale. With Faye and Yoko, the numbers came from intensity. Every post triggered global trends. Every appearance translated into measurable brand impact. Every rumor moved stock sentiment. They weren't loud. They were inevitable. By mid-2026, luxury brands quietly adjusted their Asia strategy. Executives stopped asking, "Can they replace a group?" and started asking, "What happens if they don't need to?" Because Faye and Yoko weren't competing against the system. They were operating outside it. No group hierarchy. No image dilution. No forced narratives. Just presence. Just consistency. Just two names moving the world in sync. And then came the headline that sealed everything. First non-group duo to surpass BTS-era engagement records in a single quarter. That's when the phrase appeared everywhere. Faye and Yoko versus the world. Not because they challenged anyone directly, but because the world suddenly had to catch up. What happens next is the real question. Because power lists don't predict the future. They confirm what's already happening. And in 2026, one truth is impossible to ignore. Faye and Yoko didn't ask for space at the top. They took it. And they're not done yet. And the most unsettling part for the industry? This wasn't even their final form. Behind the scenes, executives began to admit something they'd never say on record. Faye and Yoko were no longer being measured as celebrities. They were being measured as forces. Power rankings started tracking them differently, less like entertainers, more like economic indicators. When Faye appeared at a private brand dinner in Paris, luxury analysts noted a spike in Southeast Asian market interest within hours. When Yoko posted a single photo, no caption, no tags, 3 unrelated brands saw engagement surges they couldn't explain. This wasn't hype. It was gravity. What truly separated Faye and Yoko from every comparison before them, including BTS, was not scale, but control. They didn't flood the market. They didn't overexpose. They didn't explain themselves. They let silence work. And silence, in 2026, became their most valuable asset. Fans began calling it the Faye Yoko effect. A pattern emerged, less visibility, more curiosity. Fewer statements, louder speculation. Smaller gestures, massive emotional response. While other stars chased relevance, Faye and Yoko curated absence. And the world leaned in. Then came the moment no one expected. At a closed-door Asia-Pacific Media Summit, an internal slide leaked, just one image. It showed historical engagement records once considered untouchable. BTS, Blackpink, global solo legends, and next to them, highlighted in quiet red, Faye and Yoko, 2026 projection curve. The line didn't plateau. It climbed. What shook analysts wasn't the numbers, it was the trajectory. Most stars peak, stabilize, then maintain. Faye and Yoko were still accelerating. With no album, no confirmed world tour, no official joint project announcement, just anticipation. Critics tried to frame it as a moment. But moments don't last quarters. Moments don't reshape branding strategy. Moments don't force award committees to rewrite eligibility rules. Yet by late 2026, that's exactly what happened. New categories, new metrics, new conversations, because traditional systems couldn't classify them anymore. And through it all, Faye and Yoko remained exactly the same. No victory speeches, no comparisons accepted, no crowns claimed. They didn't say they'd beaten records. They let the world say it for them. Which is why the story isn't about charts, rankings, or breaking BTS-era milestones. It's about something far bigger. It's about what happens when influence stops being manufactured and starts being felt. And in 2026, one truth is undeniable. Faye and Yoko aren't competing in the industry's game anymore. They've changed the rules, and the world is still trying to catch up. By the second half of 2026, Faye and Yoko's influence began shaping industries outside entertainment. Brands recalibrated campaigns based on whether they could capture even a fraction of the emotional intensity the duo commanded. Fashion houses scheduled launches around rumored sightings. Tech companies monitored fan chatter before deciding product drops. It wasn't just fandom anymore, it was market strategy driven by sentiment. At the same time, the fans themselves evolved. Faye and Yoko had trained their audience to value substance over spectacle. Every public appearance, every red carpet smile, was dissected, not for gossip, but for inspiration. Online communities dedicated threads to analyzing their off-screen interactions, debating what decisions reflected personal growth, and celebrating moments of authenticity. The energy was electric, yet refined. It was admiration mixed with curiosity, and fans loved every second of it. Inside the entertainment world, producers started whispering that a new benchmark for celebrity power had arrived. Awards, box office numbers, and streaming metrics still mattered, but the intangible pull Faye and Yoko had was unquantifiable. Directors recall casting sessions where actors referenced them as examples of presence, charm, and authenticity. Aspiring stars studied old interviews to decode the unspoken chemistry that allowed the duo to dominate without performing. It became a quiet obsession across creative industries. The global stage soon took notice. Invitations to international award shows, brand collaborations, and private charity galas poured in. Yet Faye and Yoko were selective. Every engagement seemed curated for impact, making each appearance feel like a world event. Journalists compared the aura to historical cultural icons, noting how rarity increased value. With every carefully chosen move, they redefined what it meant to be influential in 2026, proving that control over narrative could outweigh quantity of content. Meanwhile, fans were documenting every subtle gesture, every shared glance, every whisper of a project. TikTok, Instagram, and Weibo became archives of devotion, tracking timelines, fashion choices, and even inferred moods. Faye and Yoko's off-screen bond sparked conversations about friendship, loyalty, and professional partnership in ways few other celebrities could. It wasn't just about admiration, it was a movement, a cultural pulse that reverberated through social media, fashion, and fan culture. As the year progressed, rumors swirled about major collaborations and undisclosed projects, each sending the internet into a frenzy before any official announcement. Speculation ranged from global tours, secret album releases, and even possible film roles with A-list co-stars. Every leak, no matter how small, was dissected, analyzed, and celebrated. The duo's ability to command attention without exposure became a case study in influence, proving that anticipation itself was a form of power. By the final months of 2026, analysts were calling it the Faye Yoko effect. Metrics showed unprecedented fan engagement, even when content was minimal. Brands reported record conversions from endorsements, not because of direct marketing, but due to the aura surrounding their names. Online forums, podcasts, and news outlets constantly referenced them. It was no longer just fandom, it was cultural currency. Looking back, 2026 would be remembered as the year Faye and Yoko redefined celebrity influence. They didn't need scandals, relentless content, or traditional marketing. Their combination of authenticity, strategic visibility, and emotional resonance created a blueprint that would be studied for years. Fans, media, and industries alike learned that true power in entertainment came from presence, timing, and trust. Faye and Yoko were not just popular, they were untouchable, setting standards that others could only aspire to, and reminding the world that in 2026, influence wasn't measured in output, but in the ability to move hearts and shape culture. As 2026 progressed, Faye and Yoko's impact didn't just stay in entertainment, it seeped into culture at large. Fashion weeks in Seoul, Tokyo, and Paris began noting that whenever their names trended, certain styles, colors, and brands skyrocketed overnight. Designers openly admitted they monitored Faye and Yoko to predict trends, realizing these two weren't just celebrities, they were cultural barometers. Fans celebrated these micro moments as if they were events of personal significance, from the way Faye tied a scarf to Yoko's choice of earrings. Every detail became instantaneously iconic. Behind the scenes, the duo's management teams worked meticulously to balance their public personas with private authenticity. Unlike many star duos, Faye and Yoko had learned to cultivate intrigue without overexposure. Leaks, teases, and subtle social media hints were carefully orchestrated to spark conversation while maintaining control. Analysts noticed a pattern of psychological engagement. Fans weren't just following, they were predicting, analyzing, and emotionally investing in every move. Meanwhile, their influence spread to emerging markets in Southeast Asia, India, and Europe. Local brands and media outlets scrambled to book interviews, appearances, and collaborations. Faye and Yoko's presence was now a key performance indicator in marketing and entertainment, with economists noting a measurable Faye Yoko effect on sales and engagement. It became clear that their cultural capital had value far beyond typical celebrity endorsement. On a personal level, the duo began embracing mentorship opportunities, quietly supporting up-and-coming artists, actors, and musicians. Fans noticed subtle but impactful gestures, public praise on social media, behind-the-scenes guidance on projects, and private meetings shared through indirect hints. This layer of generosity enhanced their reputation not just as entertainers, but as leaders and role models in their field. Their off-screen collaborations started creating buzz for new projects that combined entertainment with lifestyle branding. Rumors of a global fashion line, a limited edition music single, and a high-profile charity initiative circulated. Each project was designed to merge artistic expression with social influence, emphasizing Faye and Yoko's ability to blend culture, commerce, and charisma seamlessly. As the year neared its end, statistics showed that any content involving the duo, even minimal snippets, went viral within hours, driving fan engagement to new heights. Media outlets labeled them the ultimate influencers, yet Faye and Yoko remained grounded, ensuring their presence never felt forced. Fans often commented that their authentic bond off-screen translated into a magnetic pull online, something no marketing algorithm could replicate. Looking forward, expectations for 2027 were monumental. Faye and Yoko had set a new standard. Power in celebrity no longer meant constant exposure. It meant controlled presence, emotional resonance, and cultural relevance. Analysts predicted that their moves in the next year would redefine not only entertainment metrics, but also how global influence is measured in modern media.